Okay, next up, let's talk about the website. So, like I said, my website has sucked for a long time. I've known it sucked for a long time. I have wanted to revamp it for a very long time, but it's one of those things where it was going to take time, it was going to take money, and I had too many other things always going on. Well, I finally sat down, completely overhauled my website, rebuilt it from scratch. It is much better now, and hopefully it'll do a much better job keeping it up to date, because that was another problem. But I think I've got that mostly solved. So I added some features that I just wanted to talk about to the website that I think will be some great quality of life updates for people who have used my paddle database, because that was also really bad because it was basically a Google sheet. And if you weren't a truly dedicated paddle nerd, you were never going to go through it. Like, I had the thing and I didn't want to go through it because I hated how much it looked. So there are 3 things I overhauled on the website that I think are really helpful. One, I added a new paddle database. So there's images that you can search through. There are filters that are very clearly defined, common things that everyone filters their paddle for: handle length, grip size, the year it was released, which certification it has, swing weight, anything you can think of, you can probably filter by it for the most part, at least the things that are relevant. And then there are images. You can click on the images. It'll expand into a paddle card, and then it'll have like all these little bar charts and all the info. So it's much easier to look at and understand. So if you ever want to find paddles that fit a certain criteria, the paddle database filters are a great way to do that. Like, you can filter paddles so quick and be like, you know what? I only want to see paddles with 5 to 5 1/4 inch handles. Boom. Now you can see there's 30 paddles in the database, and you can look at those and decide if it's one you want to consider buying, right? So that can be really helpful. So I'm really happy with how the database came out. And then the next thing is a paddle comparison tool. So you can go over to that and then select up to 4 different paddles. You don't have to do 4. And then you can compare all the stats side by side. So instead of just looking at one and going, okay, the swing weight on is this, it's this, blah, 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 you can now put all 4 side by side and be like, okay, here's the swing weight of this one, here is the twist weight, here is handle length, whatever you want to see side by side, can compare it all. So I think that's just a really handy way. If you're stuck between a couple paddles and you don't want to go back and forth between tabs, I think that's really nice. And then the last thing, probably the thing I am most proud of on the website, is the paddle quiz. So this is something I have had this idea for years. I mean, probably even when I first made my database, but it just wasn't very realistic. And this is one of the reasons I needed to migrate my website, is because Squarespace was so limiting in what I could build on it that I couldn't make these tools. So company like paddle retailers have had quizzes for a long time, but the quizzes are often very generic. I don't think the questions are often that helpful to narrowing down the paddles. And then you can also only filter by the paddles that the paddle retailer carries. And a lot of times they don't carry brands that are like in the mid-size, which I think, at least to the enthusiasts, are some of the like more exciting brands. So I figured, okay, I've got all this paddle database. I should just be able to make a quiz that gives good recommendations, which I think is what I have achieved. So you go through this quiz. It's got about 8 or 9 questions. And the more specifically you can answer these questions, the better results you're going to get. If you answer very broadly, for example, one of the questions is, what swing weight range do you prefer? And if you say 95 to 135, that's not going to help you very much.
That's just everything on the market.
It's everything on the market. So if you're like, you know what? I like paddles that are between about 105 and 112. That is a helpful filter. And then there's a grip size filter. Do you want 4 1/4 and above, or do you want 4 1/8 and below? You can also pick no preference. But if you pick no preference, again, big filter. So the more specifically you can answer the questions on the quiz, the better results you're going to get. If you answer broadly, you're not going to get that great of results. And then at the end, it'll spit out paddles that show you like a matching percentage. If it matches all of your criteria, it'll say 100%. And then as it doesn't match criteria, if there weren't many paddles that matched, you might get like an 87% match or a 72% match. And then it'll show you the things it didn't match your criteria on. Maybe it was your price. Maybe it was the grip size. And then you can decide, okay, I can get over grip size, right? Like, I can play with 4 1/4, but I prefer 4 1/8. So if the rest of the paddle does everything I want, I might get over it. That can kind of help you decide. So the paddle quiz is something I still need to tweak around a tiny bit more to get it exactly where I want. Right now, it will only show you the top 8 options that match your criteria. I might do some finagling so it shows you more, just because I think 8 might be a little bit limiting. But yeah, I think 8 in general, like if you show more than 8, it's like that's a lot of paddles to consider.
Yeah.
Like imagine it shows you 20 paddles. You're like, well, which
I mean, that's
one do I
more
buy?
that's more paddles than I would even recommend if someone was asking me in person.
Exactly.
Like I keep it to like 4, maybe 5 at the max.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that was kind of the idea behind it. I do think for the most part, it's very good. Actually, one of the things I was doing for a little while is when I was building it, I would take people I knew what their preferences were, and I would plug in what their answers would be on the quiz to see if it would recommend that paddle they're using.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, if it's doing that, it's probably doing a pretty good job. And the vast majority of the time I was getting the paddles they were using, and I was like, okay, phew, it's working once.
Yeah, it's accurate for me.
Yeah, someone even emailed me yesterday, and they were like, dude, I took your paddle quiz, and it literally recommended me the paddle I am maining.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's going to need some tweaking. It's not perfect. If you find a bug or something that's really wonky, feel free to email me and let me know. But I think it'll be a great place for people to get an idea of what paddles you might want to start researching. And that's the idea behind it. It's not saying, hey, this is the recommendations, go buy it. It's saying, hey, here are the options that matched. Now go do your own research. You can watch our reviews if we have content on it. You can go watch other reviewers. It's just to narrow down your options because the paddle market's kind of insane.
Kind of flooded. There's just so many options. It gets really, really confusing, really stressful.
Yeah.
So make it a little bit easier with this. And so far, I mean, it's been really good. I haven't noticed too many bugs. I mean, like you said, if you make your selections too broad, it's not going to do a very good job.
Yeah.
So narrowing down specifically what you like, or, and that can be tough, right? Especially if you're very new. You just don't know
what you want.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know if you like elongated paddles. You don't know if you like 4 1/4 grips or whatever. It can be tricky, but just mess around with it and see. I mean, there's no harm in just doing a bunch of different selections over and over again.
Yeah, the nice thing too is at the end of the paddle quiz, instead of having to retake the quiz to change your results, at the top of the bar, it'll have all of the selections you made, so you can see, I selected power, I selected this shape, I selected this swing weight, whatever, and then you can change those results and it'll update the quiz immediately with all your new results. So if you're like, you know what, I actually don't care that much about 4 1/4 grip, I'll just say a 4 1/8 is actually what I want. Then you could just make that change really quick.
Yeah.
Because originally when I built it, it made you restart, and I was like, this is a horrible UI.
Yeah, that would suck.
Like I was getting tired of going through
I was
it.
gonna say that would get annoying.
I've
already put this in 6 times.
Exactly. No, I probably went through that quiz a couple hundred times, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of clicking through this quiz.
Yeah, that would get annoying.
So yeah, let me know if you check out the website. We'll leave a link down in the description. Feel free to leave me feedback. And like I said, there will be a lot of updates coming, but these were the initial wave of things that I was like, okay. I actually probably would have waited a couple more weeks to publish this, but I was like, dude, literally anything is better than your current website.
Yeah,
like,
just get it out
My
there.
current website was like the Onyx Z5 of pickleball paddle websites. It was garbage. It was absolutely terrible.